Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to see what a hybrid ceramic bearing can do to an old classic. The old classic we're referring to is the Mitchell 302 saltwater fishing reel. It was been around a long time. This one is struggling. This one is hard to turn, and if you can turn it, chances are you can hear the burring noise going on inside this reel. This is a reel that's, well, it's been fished, right? It's losing its plating on the bail wire and all, but it's a reel that's also been used in salt water. If you're going to be fishing salt water, particularly if you're in the surf, well, one of the best things you can do in terms of protecting your reel and your experience is to exchange or replace the stock bearings with a ceramic bearing. The bearings we're going to be using are from Boca Bearing. They're an ABEX 7, which is the highest rating for an ABEX related fishing reel. They can go higher in other pieces, but those are usually spec'd for military. But the ABEX 7 is the smoothest bearing. It has the least amount of variance between the ceramic balls. These are in the stainless steel races. They have a orange rubber seal on them. They're going to prevent the bearing noise. They're going to allow the reel to turn freer and easier. And, well, Boca Bearings has them available on their website. We'll leave a product part number on there should you wish to do this project at home. Well, let's get started. There's a lot of different ways you can work on a 302. Let's see if we just can't remove the spool to start and the exterior pieces. And then we'll show you not only how to service this reel, but how to do that bearing upgrade in the process. All right, we've removed the spool. This is a good place to tell you that if you're going to work on a reel that you don't know much about, then one of the things you would benefit from is taking pictures along the way. This is an interesting handle. I don't recall seeing this handle on the 302s. Most of the time you either have the coffee grinder handle or the old bullet handle. This one is a little bit different, but it fits, so we're going to accept that that's the handle we will use. The 302 is a large saltwater fishing reel. It was very common to see these on the beaches in the 1960s and 70s for surf casting. That's kind of like one of the options you had. You had this option. You had a big, damn quick super reel. You would also see the early versions of the Penn Spinfisher, like the Penn Spinfisher 704. But Mitchell's been around a long time. It was around longer than either one of those companies in terms of manufacturing. Mitchell got started in pre-World War II. And the original saltwater version of the Mitchell was one of the earliest ones made. Known for its quality, known for its engineering. And, well, this one you're going to see as we service this reel as well. It's very unique by the setup of the internal drive mechanisms. Well, if you like these kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. You'll learn about fishing reels, fishing reel history, who made the reels, when they were made. You'll learn a little bit about the architecture or the design of the reels. And, well, more importantly, you'll learn how to service them and keep them fishing for a long time to come. All right. Looks like we have a bunch of grease here, so I'm thinking that the performance of this is related to dried grease, maybe even overpacking, which was an old-timers way of waterproofing a reel. I don't know. We'll open it up and just see. Then we're going to show you the full service of this reel in addition to the upgrade of that bearing. It's only got one bearing in it. All right. So, yeah, it looks like this one classifies as a little bit of both. It's got dried grease, and it's, well, going to be sluggish as a result. Let's remove this. This is part of the drive system. As I mentioned, this is a planetary drive, and you're going to see 2 or 3 pieces associated with this. Probably should have taken that dog off. It just popped off. Normally I will tell you to use the anti-reverse override switch so that doesn't occur, but you know what, there's so much dirt and debris and grease inside this one, we're going to have to clean that anyway, so we're going to get there one way or another. Actually, it's nice to work in subsets when you're working on a reel don't try to just take everything apart at once. At least for me, that's the way to kind of approach a project. There are some people that take the whole wheel apart and then decide to clean all the pieces and parts and then kind of put them all back. So they work in a different approach. Their approach is to work one function at a time. So for example, disassembly, then clean, then reinstall. Mine is to do it by sub-assembly when possible. This helps me to limit down possible errors. Okay, that cleaned up nicely. So I guess we can show you right now how that anti-reverse dog goes in case maybe you're working on your reel and you pop the anti-reverse and don't quite understand how it goes. This is your anti-reverse dog spring. It hooks right over this piece here on the post. This is your anti-reverse dog. And a lot of times, I believe this is going to hook right into that eye on this. Not quite sure. Guess we're going to find out, because on some, like the Mitchell 308, you have an eye in that dog, but the hook goes to the shoulder. It doesn't go to the eye. And we'll see. Experiment time. I'll put it in the eye first. If it doesn't work, we'll put it on the shoulder. So we've got it sitting in the eye now. We're going to bring this over, compress the spring, and set it onto the post. And then when you toggle this, that's going to enable it to act in the anti-reverse mode. The alternative to this, let's just show you that. You have a hook. The alternative is to back it down load the dog and have the back of the spring hook the neck here. That's going to keep the dog flat to the case. We'll try it both ways. We'll see which way it goes. Let's hook the override. You know what? It's pushing it out either way. I'm going to vote for putting it inside. And of course I popped this off, so if we need to make an adjustment later, we will. So I'm going to actually put this back on, see how it works. It's working fine. We're going to leave it in the eye. Okay. Next we want to look at the main gear assembly. There's 3 pieces in here. The first one is the inner gear or the oscillation gear. The next piece is the race for your planetary gear. And then we have the main gear. So we'll do the same thing here. We're going to just clean up that grease, which I'm noticing on that track, very compacted, dried. First part would be to just clean the inner race. Then get a soft bristle brush and clean through the teeth. This is a beautiful gear. I believe it's aluminum. Beautiful gear. Then we can clean our race or orbit, if you will, for the planetary gear system. Notice that there are 2 studs on here. That's going to be very important on the reinstall. When you go to reinstall this, they need to fit in the 2 holes in the side case here. I'll show you how to do that on the reinstall. All right, for now we'll just put these gears to the side. We'll lubricate them up in a little bit. All right, I want to take the other side off right now because we have to remove that axle shaft and do some cleaning. A couple of important things with this. Notice there's some differences on this side versus the other. The primary difference is going to be the length of the screw. So on the one side you're going to have tapered screws. On the other you're going to have a rounded head. On the one side you're going to have a long screw. On the other side you're going to have a shorter screw. And on this side, right where I'm working right now, you're going to have an anti-vibration clip. Sometimes it'll just come out easy. Sometimes it'll fall out when you do the rotor or when you remove the side plate. Important on this because there's two, you need to take both sides out in order to take the axle shaft off. There's two little C-clips and how they mount. All right, pull that side plate out. Yeah, we can see why this is not performing as well as it should. All right, side plate is off. And now we can start to do a couple of different things here. First one would be to clean this up. We want to take as much of the original greases and that out of here before we start removing pieces and parts. In fact, in some pieces, like that axle shaft, you're going to have two C-clips on there holding this in, and you're not going to be able to even get to them without doing this cleaning. I'm not quite sure what the grease is, other than old. I'm sure this stuff has been around a long time. You can just see the evidence of it. So this may take some time, but don't rush it. You want to do a good job. You want this reel to last. You want your work to last, and you don't want it failing when you're out on the ocean. I use a variety of tools and light techniques to clean this up. A lot of it is just good old-fashioned work, handiwork, if you will. So this is a good place to take pictures, because when we get to that assembly with the crosswind block on it, it's easy to make a mistake. This is a left-hand crank wheel, and you'll see this wheel would be available in a right-hand crank version that would have the odd number in it. I believe it's the 303. Okay, so we have a block here, and you're going to notice on the block on this side, the left-hand side, has a through channel. This piece spins, and a lot of times I've seen where folks have put the axle shaft in incorrectly, and that axle shaft will wind up with a bump in the middle. And if you've installed your axle shaft backwards, that bump in the middle will prevent your reel from oscillating. So remember, as you take this apart and as you go to reinstall, the flat side of the axle shaft is going to face to your left, and you're going to have the flat side of your oscillation block in the same direction. All right, we're going to just try and clean this up. As I mentioned, there's two C-clips here. There's a couple of annoying pieces by various manufacturers. This C-clip setup here is one of them for the Mitchells. There's another one on the Shimano bait feeders, uses a similar setup. And it's not that it's a very difficult thing to manage, it's just hard to get out and keep track of without losing it. Okay, let's go find that C-clip then. They sit right on top of this. They're hard to even see. And generally what I have to do is I have to feel for them with a small micro screwdriver. Find the edge. It's probably on this side. There's one edge. Grab the other micro screwdriver, next size up. Find the other edge and push. And I think probably got enough to remove that. Here you go. So that's one of the little rascals. There's two of them. There's one high and one low. The first one is the hard one to get out because then you can move the oscillation block. You can move that up here and then you can see it a little bit easier. Or again, the shaft's got a lot of wear on it, but you can see it easier. It's right here. And sometimes on this one, once you get the first one set up, it's not as much of a struggle. So I use the 2 micro screwdrivers, one on each side, a little push. It's not a lot of tension on it. It's just that it wants to shoot. There it is, right there. It fell out. One of the reasons why I keep these towels on here is just that. They fall out, and we'll try to find one. Okay, with those 2 removed, we can remove the axle shaft by pulling up. We have to remove the tie-down screw. Kind of forgot about that. That's all right. The reel will tell you that you forgot that. Another point to note, what side is that tie-down screw on? The tie-down screw is on the right side, not the left. So when you go to reinstall, it's real easy to flip that. That will, in some cases, impede the performance. All right. Let's get that out of here. Your tie-down screw safely into my parts tray. There's also a little shim, kind of a rectangle, in that assembly as well. Now we can remove our axle shaft. Boy, that's a heavy-duty axle shaft. Don't make them like that anymore, as they say, and you can see here what we were talking about before. There's an indented flat space. It's going to need to face and mesh with this flat space. My biggest problem when I work on these reels is remembering what's right and what's left when I go to reinstall. That's why I'm kind of coaching you along here. All right, clean that up. And as you can see, it's a well-designed, probably over-engineered reel at the moment. And we want to do our best to get the old greases and oils out of there. We're going to bring this up. You may or may not see there's brass sleeves in these U-valleys here. I say brass, it might be something else, but there's a sleeve there. So if you find a U-shaped sleeve while you're cleaning, that's where it came from. All right, well, I generally try to not jump ahead, fast forward, or do some of the other things that some other folks make in videos because I'm trying to show you how it works in real time. Also, every now and then a random thought will pop in, and it's worth mentioning. So right now we're just cleaning the rest of this up. All these nice little covey holes to hold the dirts and greases. All right, now we're going to get to the point where we can actually install that Boca Bearing. Done a lot of house cleaning. That's part of the whole idea behind reel service. You want to make sure that you clean up, get rid of all the old greases and oils. You want to make sure that you inspect these pieces apart and replace where needed. And there's still a lot of parts for these available because there were so many of them made. So a lot of folks, there's eBay sellers out there and others that specialize in taking reels that are beyond repair, parting them out, and making those parts available to those who need them. Generally available on the internet. And you might want to do it yourself. You may just find an old 302 that maybe has a cracked handle frame or something and take the parts out of that if needed. All right, come up top. I believe this is a 15 or 17 millimeter. We probably would wind up using a, oh, we got it with that. Let's remove this. Now you get your look underneath, under the rotor. There is a washer, I believe, there. Let's bring that up. Oh, no washer, okay. Then we have what's holding our bearing in, and this is always fun, and I just hope that we can get this off. So we have that's our clip. We'll remember to put that back. That was the vibration clip. Let's get this into the, there you go. You got a better look at that piece of shim there. Okay. There's two very small screws right here. One's on this side, one's on this side. As I'm looking at this now, I'm hopeful that the channels of these screws have not been damaged and that we can get these out. The pinion gear wants to come out all by itself. It's not coming out because there's a keyway here. Do not lose this keyway. This is just a circular stud sitting in a hole on the pinion gear. Frequently lost because people don't realize when they take the rotor off, sometimes they pull it off with the rotor. There's a stud here, or a slot rather, for that keyway. There's also a little, should be a little plastic shield here. I'm not necessarily sure I'm seeing that. I'm seeing the shield for our gear, but regardless, maybe that over time somebody took that out. With the keyway off, you can actually push through on this. Bring that over to our parts tray. And now, the moment of high anxiety. I'm going to use a little bit of fishing wheel, or WD-40 on the fishing wheel, on both sides. Hopefully we're going to be able to coax those two screws out. You're going to need a micro screwdriver. It's a very thin slot in that. And a lot of these reels, well, you don't wind up replacing the bearings because you can't get these two screws out. Oh, look at this. Making a liar out of me. Here's one of the screws right there. They're set screws. Let's see if we can go 2 for 2. All right. This is my lucky day. All right, both of them can come out. One is longer than the other. Notice the long one. It's kind of easy. You have a short piece of the frame here and a longer piece. What usually happens on these is the screws are left proud when they are removed and work done on the bearing. And then, well, the case, the rotating of the rotor inside, grinds the head of that off. Then you're stuck. All right. I want to see if we can simply push this out now. I have something to push that out with. I have a long wooden dowel. Sometimes it works like this. Sometimes you can tap it. There we go. We just tapped it out. All right. I think I have the right replacement bearing here. Again, they've come from Boca Bearing, and these are hybrid ceramics. And just check to make sure that they're the same. They are. They match up internal, external, and height. We can take this and simply put that right back in the case. Now, before I take that out, Chris, a longtime channel viewer of ours, has suggested, and rightfully so, that from time to time it doesn't hurt to put grease onto the outside of this bearing so that it doesn't rust into the case, because that happens. We'll do that. Okay, now we're back in with that. I'm going to go get those 2 set screws. I'm going to take the long set screw first. So Boca Bearings is a dependable and a reliable supplier that's been around for a very, very long time. And they provide top-of-the-line materials, so you don't have to worry. When they tell you it's an Apex 7 bearing, it's an Apex 7 bearing. There's a lot of folks that will sell stuff on the internet, and they'll tell you it's an Apex 7, and it might be a 5 or a 3. You just don't know. You're not going to test it. And, well, that's going to cause problems. All right, there's one more of these set screws in here. Just need to find it. And find which side it belongs on. And we'll finish tying this up. Okay, let's bring this back together then. We can take that pinion gear. Let's clean that up. That soft brush, just like we were doing on the main gear. Fresh grease. Use only fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision Real Grease with this. Make sure that the real grease that you use is for fishing reels. I know that sounds kind of silly, but folks are using all kinds of things these days, and I don't recommend anything other than fishing reel grease. You saw what came out of there. Who knows what that stuff was. All right, the bearing goes in. Here's our little shim washer that we identified earlier. That one goes in. There's 2 insets to get over those 2 slots. Next up then, what we want to do is find that slot for the keyway. And then this is always the nervous point, and this is where those paper towels help me. If I drop it, at least I can find it. The Boca Bearings mat is great. It's rubber, so things don't bounce off of that. I just use this extra level of protection, and also just helps me to see a little more with it being a white piece. Okay, we're going to just line that up. Sometimes easier said than done. And it's a little round stud there that we want to get in this. There we go. So that's your keyway. Make sure that we have that washer down. Now we can bring our rotor over. Notice the slots. That slot's got to go there, and then this piece will be the piece that's going to be on the bearing side of it. There we go. That's in. Let's reset the rotor nut. And again, hand tightening is the best practice here. We can give it a spin and see how much smoother it runs now with those bearings. There's only one bearing in this reel, but it makes all the difference in the world. Make sure that you're tightened down, that you have a cup that doesn't wobble. And well, I think it's probably time for a break here. I'm just going to set this down for a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, let's do the rest of this then. I'm going to get a fresh towel here. Remember now, left hand crank. So this is the right side. Next thing we would like to do here is to bring our axle shaft in and reset that. So remember, you have this brass piece, has this shim. Sits in a cavity like this. Bring that over and set that on the 2 bars inside the case. Just like that. You can grease those bars. That's going to slide up and down with the axle shaft. Next up then is your axle shaft and that slot, and it's so easy to put that on the wrong side. So again, left hand side, the slot faces in. Bring this down about there. We want to get our block. For now, just a little bit of grease onto the block. Bring the block in. And now you're going to find the 2 slots for these clips. So generally speaking, I like to just kind of bring it to about here. Top clip. I'm going to take this off because it's hard for me to manage that little clip. And I certainly don't want to lose it. I'll hold it with the micro pliers. Align it to the grooves. And then generally thumbnail pressure will seat it if you're in there properly. And we are. So top one is in. Bring our wing up then. And then we can bring our assembly down to align with the hole for the tie down screw. Remember what we said, the tie down screw goes on the right hand side. Bring that in. So this is kind of an exercise in patience. It's not that tough to do once you understand the mechanics of this wheel. Pull all the way up on this. We've got round 2 going with that little clip, that C-clip again. This one's always a little bit more difficult because I can't get my fingers in all the way. You can see how we can get it started. And generally what I will do with this is I'll take the blade of a flat-bladed screwdriver and I'll use that to push down on that clip. Alright, we're in now. Just the way it should be, right? Good. Alright. So what have we done so far? We just reinstalled the axle after we replaced the bearing. We've showed you how that works and the keyway and everything. Now we're set up for the gear side install. There's 3 pieces. The most difficult part of that is always getting these pins into those holes. So what I like to do, I like to put the pins in the holes first. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. That's my preferred method. And I leave the back open at this point so that I can see where I am with the install. Next up then, I'm going to sit our oscillation gear into the cavity here. I'm also going to grease up the teeth on the main gear. This thing should fly versus the way we found it with all the old greases and oils and the like and the bad bearing. Okay, once you grease that, the eccentric is going to roll, and then it's a visual sighting. We have this in here. I've got that tag down to the bottom, so I'm going to move this to the bottom, bring that into the slot, and then bring it into the case. So we can see just by turning it over now whether that's set properly. Turn your gear if you like. Looks like everything is the way it should be. So we're going to leave that, come back to this side now. We'll take our case. Remember, this dog needs to be in the off position. If it's not in the off position, when you go to install this case, you could catch it on one of these ratchet points, and, well, everything will be gone at that point. All right. Case on, case in, case aligned. Almost sounds like que sera, sera. Huh? All right. The tapered end screws go on this side. They are the longer screws. And we're going to set that in now. This is the exciting part about working on the old fishing reels. You kind of know what you've done when you've done it, and you just can't wait to put this on a pole and take it fishing. The fellow that brought this one in tells me he's had it a very long time. He's getting close to retirement. He remembers fishing with this reel a long time ago and like to put it back out in the water again. And I think this is an ideal setup to do just that. All right, that's 3. Well, we got one more down here. I do put them in an X pattern. I like to keep the tension on the case square. All right, we got a little bit of cleaning on this piece. As I've mentioned, I like to wear that glove. It keeps grease off of my hands, and I'm never quite sure what's in these greases. Sometimes, well, you just need the dexterity that you can't be afforded in those gloves. I don't know why, I just got a flashback to a Playtex rubber glove commercial where it was so thin you could pick up a dime. I don't know if anybody would pick up a dime these days. There you go. All right. This is where you can put your clip in first, and bring your side case. Slide that under the clip. Line your holes. And let's do this again. We got 4 more screws and a handle. That's all that's left inside the case that's holding my pieces and parts. If you're having trouble with the alignment or the reach, there is a tool for that. And I'm going to find it right now because, well, I'm having trouble with that reach. This is a Klein tool. It's a split-bladed screwdriver that helps you hold flat-bladed screws. And I use it as a screw starter. I do not finish the tightening of a screw with that because those blades are somewhat fragile. And once you kind of wrench with them, they tend to separate and not be as effective. You insert the split blade in, you push up on the collar to spread the wings, get it started, finish it with your screwdriver. One more, that's the one that has that clip that's got to go on there. That's what I was thinking about all along in terms of using this tool. Center the hole, and that's an anti-vibration shield for the rotor. Snug it up, tighten it up. Go back and make sure that all of the pieces on the reel are tightened. Now on your spool, it's actually a 2-part spool. We chose to take it off by loosening the top. You're going to notice that there's a cavity here. This can come out, and you can unscrew, this can come out, or you can just take the whole spool and assembly off by unscrewing it from the shaft. That's what we did with ours. So we're just going to tighten it back on, and we can tighten down on the drag. The drags are a series of metal drags. There are no fabric drag washers in this. There's about 7 different springs and drags in there. So if you're going to try to replace them, go dig out the schematic for this reel, get the sequence of those metal drag washers. And actually I have that. I save it all the time on my hard drive, and if anybody needs that sequence, just leave a note in the comment section. We'll contact each other. I'll get you that. All right, I'm going to use the penetrating oil just to loosen up the handle. I heard a little bit of a squeak going on there. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here. Get some of the tools out of the way. We'll give it a test. So what did we do? We did a complete rebuild of this. We got rid of all the old greases and oils, and we got rid of a very loud and worn bearing. We replaced that with a Boca Bearing's hybrid ceramic bearing, the ABEC 7. The top of the line in terms of those. Why did we do that? Because it's ceramic, and ceramic does not rust and or corrode in a saltwater environment. And what is this reel? Well, it says Mitchell's 302 Saltwater. So it's a good thing to have that wasn't around back in the day when it was manufactured, and it will provide a lot of improvement both in terms of the ease with which the rotor will spin, as well as the protection against the corrosion of a basic steel bearing. Well, let's give it a test, see how we did. This is an oh my. This is how I remember a reel back in the day. Just a beautiful reel all around. Turns free and easy. And I'll bet you the fellow who brought this in, whoop, yeah. Of course I opened it up right on the trip line. The fellow who brought this in is just going to be delighted by it. His name's Marty. Gosh, I almost forgot Marty's name. Isn't that a shame? Wow, what a performer. We can knock off the does check the anti-reverse. Let's check all the features and functions. One of the things we didn't do, we didn't oil here. We can. That's a spring trip. Kind of an interesting way that it works. It's got a little rod here that when you pull it over, it's going to go right into this little slot in the back of the bail here. So oiling is a good thing for that. Then it will trip. This is not one of those bails where you can manually flip it back. That's unfortunate. Well, that's been quite a project. It's been a joy all around to me. I love restoring the old reels, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. And more importantly, I hope you try taking one of these projects on. The step-by-step instructions that I provided should help. And if you need the Boca bearings, check the website in the description, and we've also leave the link on the part number so that you know what you can order for this reel. Well, before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. Truly appreciate what it is you do day in and day out. And I thank you for your dedication to service and your career choice. Also want to thank everybody who's still with us. This has been a long video. And well, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your feedback, your comments, your questions, and your desire to learn more about fishing reels. Again, if you haven't subscribed, I want to recommend that you subscribe. And by all means, if you like this video, please click that like button. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle with our Mitchell 302 Saltwater reel, wishing everybody a great day. Thanks for watching.